Have you ever had something go so terribly wrong in your marriage that you didn't want anyone to know? I sure have, and so has my guest, Orianna. Today, she's going to share the devastating things that happened to her in her marriage and how, against all odds, she not only put her marriage back together, she made it better than ever. I'm Laura Doyle, New York Times bestselling author, and I was the perfect wife until I got married. I'm passionate about showing women how to make their marriages playful and passionate without his conscious effort, even if it seems hopeless. This is the Empowered Wife podcast, where happy wives share exactly what we did and said to make our struggling marriages last and thrive. I'd love to know a little something about you. If you've ever had a big breakdown in your marriage, how did you deal with it? Go ahead and comment below this video. Or if you're listening to the audio, go to YouTube and search for Laura Doyle so you can subscribe and join the conversation below. My guest Orianna's husband isolated himself from her and their kids and had an emotional affair with her friend. She thought their marriage was over. But instead of giving up, she decided to make some changes. And today, her husband enjoys telling her and showing her how much he loves her. She's going to tell us how she did it so you can do it too. Orianna, welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast. So great to have you
Hi.
here.
Thank you so much for having me. This is such an honor. Thank you.
Oh, well, let's start with the bad old days. What was going on in your marriage?
Ugh. Do we have to? I guess.
Just a
Um,
little while.
all right. So, my husband and I have been married for 11 and a half years, and our marriage has not been like smooth sailing. Like, I wouldn't say like most people's, but we've had a lot of difficulties, a lot of challenges just based off his job. My husband was military. And so we faced 3 deployments back to back to back. I actually had counted that I spent more time with our dog and daughter than I had my own husband. Um, so that presents a lot of challenges in itself. Um,
Absolutely.
you know, while he was away, I had to assume the role of both husband and wife, make the decisions, be the head of the household, and be in charge of finances and everything. Like that was my job, and it was really difficult, but I took pride in it because that was my way of contributing and helping.
Yeah.
Um, we also moved 10 times in 11 and a half years. So, add a deployment by itself, that's difficult on any marriage. Add 3 of those, then add moving, not just once, but 10 times.
10 times.
So it was difficult, but through each of that, I felt like we would just come together. Like we were a really good team. Unfortunately, after my husband's last deployment he was on, he never really came back emotionally. He had shut down the emotional side to himself because it was a really difficult deployment. And so the day actually that he came back, I had given birth to our son. So we didn't
Oh
really
my
have much time
God.
to adjust to, getting things back into the swing. It was, he's home, here's our son. Now let's pack up and move across the country. And it was just bam, 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 bam. And so it was a lot of difficulties. Um, and I never relinquished control when he came back. And I think that was a huge problem as the years kept progressing. So here we are moving, and here I am being the man of the household, even though my husband is perfectly capable of doing all of the things. I just kept on. And why would he let it up? He's like, hey, she's handling it. Okay. But after so long, it didn't become this. I wasn't this like joyful person about it. It was like, this is my way or the highway. You're going to do what I say right now. And if it doesn't get done, then you're going to see like the bad side to me. And a lot of disrespect happened from that because, here I am doing all of this. You need to respect me. And that, of course, never goes over quite well.
but understandable, right? Because that was your survival while he was deployed, and you were a single mom basically while he was gone.
Yeah.
And this was the mode, the habit, the routine that you'd established, and so it's understandable, right? That this is how you solve things, how you got by.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So he decided to make a career change. And with that career change, it took us down to South America. And, moving is something we're used to as a family. However, moving to a country where I'm not 100% fluent in the language, on top of being so far away from friends, on top of being away from family, it was just like looking back at it now, I can just see like all of the steps were going for a huge explosion in our marriage, and it just kept building and building and building. And for me personally, one of the things that I would do to uh, kind of ease my stress and just kind of release would be drinking. I drank a lot. Unfortunately, I would get really irritated throughout the year, the month, and I would just stuff it down and I would never address it. And when I would get really, really drunk, I would just explode.
Oh, it all.
Everything,
Yeah.
everything would come out. Talk about disrespect. Wow. I'm a Southern girl, and so my mouth gets me in trouble sometimes, but it was bad. And I look back at it now and it makes me really like sick to see how I not only behaved myself, but how I treated my husband, who I love more than anything. And it's it it's just terrible, honestly. Um,
You're so
and so I just that was like the boiling point. And it wasn't the first time or second time that I had done this. Like throughout our marriage, that was kind of like a thing I would do. I would never have a emotional I would never have a vulnerable conversation with my husband, because to me, as a military spouse, vulnerability is just, you don't do that. And you got to be tough. You've got to be strong. You got to keep your emotions down. And that way, if other spouses have problems, they can come to you and you can be that rock for them. Like, I never had any type of vulnerable conversation with him. I would just stuff it down. And so 11 and a half years of that constant equation
can't be done,
was
right?
no. And like I said, it was just adding to this is like a tinderbox, just adding to the fire. And it got to a point where I wasn't happy. It was clear I wasn't happy. I didn't have the support here in South America. I didn't have the support that I wanted from my husband. And I just found solace in drinking. And then I would just have that explosion on my husband. At the same time, my husband was just tired of always being the one that was getting the bad end of the deal, I guess.
Yeah.
You know,
Sure. Oh my gosh, sounds super painful for both of you. Like
it was
lonely,
awful. Yeah.
oh, oh, terrible. Yeah. Hard, really, really rough time.
It was bad. And I had one friend here that I confided in, and I told her everything. And this was before I knew about you and obviously the skills and the amazing community of women. And I confided everything in her, and I really did trust in her. And unfortunately, she used that against me and found that as a way in to becoming close with my husband.
Ah,
And when you're so far away from anybody, and that was, your one
that was
thing,
your one
it's
friend.
really,
Yeah.
you know, when it happened, the emotional affair, at first, I got really good at shopping for pain, and I became the world's best detective, and I knew something was up, and I just got really good. I mean, I could be the expert at shopping for pain. There was no trust at all. I would go through his phone. I would go through his computer. Um, you name it, I would find evidence, and evidence, the wrong kind of evidence, not the evidence of his love for me, the wrong kind. And it was bad. And like I said before, him always being at the receiving end of all of my drunken attacks, then add me going and doing all of this extra stuff. And at this point, it had just been conversation through text messaging. It hadn't been physical. It hadn't been anything like that. However, after everything has happened and, having conversations with him, he said that my behavior definitely was a motivation for him. He basically was like, she already thinks I'm cheating on her. Might as well just go ahead and get something out of it in return. So it's just,
so every time you're finding something, you shop for pain, you find something, and it's like a stab in the heart, and then
it's the worst.
It's the worst. And then and then it kind of created a sense of hopelessness for him. Like, okay, she already thinks I'm cheating. Like, and then, okay, so then what happened?
So the trust was gone on both parts. I know, and a lot of times when you get cheated on, it's always that person's fault.
Yeah.
Never turn the blame on yourself. But looking back at it, I take 100% accountability and responsibility for my actions, because I didn't trust him, but there's no way he was going to trust me. Why would he? Like, I was just doing all of the things that proved untrustworthy. So here I am wanting him to prove his trustworthiness and his faithfulness to me. But what was I doing in return? Nothing. I was that bitter person. And every time he looked at me, I would just show hurt. I would just show devastation, because I had been really hurt, and it was awful.
It sounds awful.
I laughed through it, but it was awful.
Not at the time. Not at the time.
Oh,
laughing. And when you say
no.
You were so hurt, I mean, a natural mere mortal woman response to hurt is also anger and resentment. You were saying you're bitter. So he's looking at you like, hey, babe, and you're like, like, not now. Like,
yeah,
you're in trouble.
It was bad. I didn't want to look at him. I didn't want to see him. To add to it, like I said, our marriage has never been like easy sailing. I was at that time 6 months pregnant.
Oh my gosh. So 2 kids.
So not only
pregnant.
2 kids, 6 months pregnant, living in another country,
where your only friend is cheating with your husband.
The other woman.
Oh,
W.
Gosh. This is awful. Okay.
Yes.
I have so many questions, but all right, well, carry on. Carry on.
All right. So, it got to the point where when I had found out that it had escalated past just an emotional affair, that they had actually connected. I didn't have anyone to turn to. I just kind of like shut in myself. I didn't have I wasn't going to trust anyone to talk to at this point, because of what I had gone through, the trauma
backfired on you. Yeah.
And so I found you. I Googled help marriage. I don't even remember what I put in there, but I was like, I can't do this alone. And at that point, for me, marriage is for life. Divorce is not a thing. I'm a child of divorce. And so I wasn't on the fence at all at this point. I was like, I'm still here. We can do this. We can save this, but I don't know how. I don't even know where to start. And so there's all those fake self-help people like, oh, do this to manipulate him, to win him back. And I would read it and I'd be like, oh, that's exactly what the other woman was doing. That's what my friend did to grab my husband. I don't want that. That is not a lifetime fix. That is not something I want. I want a permanent change. And then I found your book, and it was the audiobook. And I just I couldn't be in the same room with him because it was just too much. The trauma, the anxiety, everything was just too much. If I saw him pick up his phone, I just, so I just stopped. And, you know, being pregnant, I needed to move anyway. So I'd just go and I'd take my dog and we'd go walk around the city. And as I was walking, I would listen to your audiobook. And it was just brutal. Every chapter was like, this is about you, Orianna. This is about you, Orianna. This is exactly what you're doing, Orianna. And I was like, wow, she is talking directly to me. Yikes. Whoa. And so then I actually bought a copy of your book and put duct tape around it as like a reminder, like, use that duct tape, girl. Like, come on. And I just started practicing the skills. I didn't know where to start. I didn't really want to do the group coaching calls because that was weird to me, because here I am with all these like strangers, and I didn't want them to know what was going on because I was so ashamed and I was so embarrassed.
And you're the only one, it feels like, probably, right?
Yes, I'm the only one that's pregnant, whose husband's cheating on her with her best friend. And
Oh my God.
I'm the only one in the world that's experiencing it, living in another country. Like,
it's hopeless.
But as
like, it's hard. It's a mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I took that first step, and I was like, I'm gonna try the trial. I'm gonna see how it goes, see if I like it. And after the first group coaching call, I was like, this is different. These women are just like sharing everything. Like, wow, okay,
Oversharing almost, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so I was like, I guess I'll do another one. I'll do another one. It'll be fine. I'll see how it goes. And I will never forget, I won't say her name, but there's a lady that was in the exact same situation that I was in. And my mouth dropped and I started crying. And I'm not a crier. Or I can say I was not a crier at that point. And I was just tearing, and I was like, how is this a thing? No one else knows what this is like, but here's somebody that's literally going through the same thing that I'm going through. How is this even possible? And so I just sat there and listened, and then I started reading on the boards, like the takeaways. And I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be. And so I just started practicing the skills. The first one I started doing was duct tape. And holy cow, that makes all the difference. That's my winner right there. Especially for me.
Just being quiet, just keeping your mouth shut, not always giving your opinion.
Not always having to have the last word. That was the game changer for me, because I realized when he would tell me things, he would say it over and over and over again. He'd say the same thing. And I would take offense to that because I'm like, I hear what you're saying. I hear you, but I wasn't really listening. I was just waiting for my turn to talk. And so when I relinquished control of having to answer him after everything he said, or always having to have the last word, like I said, I just resorted to just being quiet and having that being comfortable with that silence for myself. Then I really started to hear what he was saying. And it hurts looking back at it now, because he was telling me things before the emotional affair, before him with my best friend. He was trying to tell me how he was feeling, how unhappy he was, but I wasn't listening. I was just concerned about me and how I was feeling. And it breaks my heart that if I'd have just had these skills, if I'd have had the training on how to be a good wife, how to be respectful, like all of that could have been avoided.
If anybody
but I don't
taught you before. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just was just doing what I do, and it's so important. Like all of these skills, not just duct tape, but just all of them. And it's not just to improve your marriage, it's to be a better you. Like for me, I use it with my children all the time. I used to get so sassy when they wouldn't do what I said, like immediately, but I just calm down, relinquish control of what's going on, and then take a step back, use the duct tape, let them, if they have to say something, let them have the floor, let them say it, and then I'll respond accordingly. And it's just changed. It really has helped a lot.
I bet that's a lot more peaceful between you and your kids.
Absolutely, especially at bedtime.
Wow, that is cool. All right, so your kids are benefiting from the skills, or you're benefiting as a mom. The family's benefiting there. So
It's working all around.
it's working all around. So this is it's a new and improved Oriana is really what I'm hearing. So you used the duct tape, and that was a big breakthrough. What else did you do? What other skills what else did you experiment with?
So I finally just ultimately had to relinquish control. And I know a lot of times people hear that and they're like, oh, I'm just not going to bother. No, no, no. Like for me, basically just stopping everything, the spying, the searching for pain. I had to just stop. And it's not easy. Like there's times where he acts weird and I want to do it. I'm like, I know something's going on, but I don't. And I change my mind. Like, I call it the toxic thought troll. He lives in my head. And when he wants to have conversations with me, he's really good about putting those conversations in my head, but I immediately have to stop it immediately because once I focus on anything toxic or negative, it's just a snowball effect. And I was doing that for months before I really got the skills down. And so it's literally relinquishing control of his behavior, of my behavior. Well, not my behavior, but, I can't control him. So if my husband is on his phone, that's his business. I don't want to know what's going on over there. I want to focus on me. What can I do to make me not feel icky? What can I do to make me not focus on that? So then it's literally relinquishing control, finding something to distract me and to really put my attention on and to change those negative toxic thoughts. And that's I I had a lady in the group coaching when I was being coached. And one of her takeaways was that, the birth of our daughter was going to be like a rebirth for me. It was going to be like a new beginning for me. And I took that to heart. And so for me personally, a promise that I made to myself after the birth of our daughter was, I'm not doing that crazy stuff anymore. I'm not, I'm not going to check on the phones. I'm not going to look in the computers. I'm not going to go searching for pain because it's not worth it. What matters is what I have right now. And I've got 3 healthy, beautiful children. I've got a husband who is trusting me again, and he sees it. He sees that I'm not like always looking where his phone is, or I'm not always like looking at him with that questioning, like, I don't believe you stare. Like he actually, he sees that I'm trying to change. And it's not just for him, it's for myself because I'm happier now. And that's the biggest payoff.
Oh, how did he respond when you first started like using duct tape? I mean, yeah, I mean you got a good response, obviously, but I mean, did he trust it?
No, not at all. So I started the program in March of 2024 this year. And I would say it wasn't until June, after months of being in group coaching calls every day, I would try to make all of them. I'm a stay-at-home wife, so I'm very
Awesome.
lucky that I get that opportunity. But like I said, I don't have a community here. I don't have friends and people that I can trust. So that was my home, my community. And so I would try to make all of them and it would work. Like I would feel crummy in the morning for like a 9 a.m. coaching call. And by 1 p.m., I was like on top of the world. All the coaches would like laugh because I was just so haggard in the morning. But then I took pride in myself and showered and put makeup on or, changed my clothes. And it would make a difference. But he was very skeptical. And it, I missed the part where you say in your book, don't tell him right off the bat you're doing this.
Darn.
I
Yeah.
missed that. That was the first thing I did. I was like, I'm doing this self-help thing. And so he's like, yeah, good luck with that. But it took a couple months for sure. Because he was like, it's too good to be true. Like, I know you. We've been married for 11 and a half years. As soon as the baby's born, you're gonna start going back to drinking again. You're gonna start being sassy again. And that's not an option for me. I've completely kicked out alcohol. That's not on my radar anymore.
You stopped
I don't
drinking.
need it. Yeah, I don't need it. Like I said,
Yeah.
the birth of our daughter was like a restart for me. It was like a second chance, not just for our marriage, but just for me as a person. I want to do things differently.
When you say you don't need it, like you don't miss, you know, feeling bad,
No.
having having a little.
So that used to be something I'd look forward to. We would go out to like dinner and I'd get wine. Um, and I would, or parties, I would be the crazy one, obviously. But now I have that happiness. I have that fun in me. I don't need it. I am a girl of fun and light,
Oh,
and I don't need alcohol to bring that out. It's just there all the time.
oh, wow. You're doing it yourself, it sounds like. Okay, so, all right. So that's amazing. That's inspiring that you're just that girl of fun and light and it doesn't call to you. And you've made these changes, which they definitely require some focus, right? To give up alcohol, to give up shopping for pain. I think, and I had read you had apologized to your husband too.
Oh man. He always thinks it's weird. And I mean still to this day, like don't misunderstand. I am not perfect. I slip up a lot. But I know when I do it, I catch myself and I take a step back and I really have to reevaluate what I did, how I got there, and how I can go forward and apologize for that behavior. So the first thing, once I had really got into the skills and really sat down with myself. I keep a journal and it's divided up into different things. So one part I divided is evidence of love. So when my husband does something nice, I write it down. And before I never did that. I would just acknowledge it like, oh, hey, thank you so much for taking out the trash. But now I write it down because on my bad days where I'm like, that toxic thought troll comes back and it's like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
he's probably messaging her. I can be like, stop. And then I go back and I reread all of the things within the past week that he has done as evidence that he's in this to win it. Like he's not just going to say things like, yeah, well, I'll be with you. Yeah, we're married. Like he's in it. He shows me every day there's something that he's in this marriage. So then there's that. There's the spouse fulfilling prophecy like little section that I made. And the biggest one, you did a podcast where it's basically like if your husband has cheated on you, how do you view it in your mind? And I was definitely one of the ones that was like, I have no trust in him. I don't have faith that he's going to come back. And so my spouse fulfilling prophecy was I have a trustworthy and faithful husband who loves me with all of his heart.
Oh, That
I
must
say that all the time.
well, it must have felt like a bold-faced lie at first. That must have felt like
It did, yeah.
completely untrue when you first started saying it. Is it true now?
Absolutely.
Or
Absolutely. Yes,
it's true now?
it is true. Absolutely. It hurt so bad to say it in the beginning because I felt like every time I would say I have a trustworthy and faithful husband, that toxic thought
Control.
troll would get in there and be like,
No, you don't.
no, you don't.
Yeah.
This is why. Remember when this happened? Remember when you read this? Remember when you saw this? And it was
All the evidence. Bring up all
really
the evidence.
all the negative evidence. And so I had to get to a point where I was like, just stop, stop. And my faith pulled me through that. I really had to fall back on my faith in that sense. And I just kept saying it. And even to this day, things are great, but I still say it because I really, truly want to believe every single day that my husband is faithful, that he's trustworthy, and that he loves me with all of his heart. And so now when I say it, I just start smiling because I know it's true and it makes me happy. And
Makes me chills too. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, so this other woman, your ex-friend, is she gone?
honestly, I don't know. And I don't know. Like I said, when I relinquished control of it, I relinquished it hard. Um, I I stopped looking, trying to find evidence that they're still together. I just cut off the oxygen to that. Not only for mine and my husband's marriage, but for myself. Because, I had the trauma of their infidelity, but also the trauma of her backstabbing me
Yes.
as a
Being a
friendship,
friend who
like
betrayed you. Yeah.
double
Like,
trauma.
double trauma.
So
Absolutely.
the part for me was I'm done. I don't, I don't even, we were friends on Instagram and I would go searching for pain, like looking, trying to see what's going on. I stopped. I deleted it. Any aspect of her is gone. No oxygen is being put to that. And there's times where I do wonder and I want to ask my husband, but I don't because I don't care. I don't need to know because I'm happy where we're at right now. He is doing everything I need him to do for me. And if he's still friends with her, that's fine. I don't see evidence of that at all because he's with me. He's with me. He's not on his phone. He's not being secretive. He actually now, which is something that never happened back during all of the bad times, he'll hand me his phone and be like, hey, what do you think about this? And it'll be, like a motorcycle or a funny thing on Facebook. I don't know. It's just something goofy. But he'll actually hand it to me. He never used to do that because he knew what I would do. And he's started to trust me to where he'll just hand it and be like, hey, what do you think of this? And that to me is just evidence. Like, I don't
Trust
need to
back.
know what's going on in that area. That's on his paper. But what I'm seeing on my paper and our joint paper together is nothing but positivity and amazingness,
Wow. Incredible. Like, I mean, do you ever think you'd be saying this back in the day when you were being such a good detective? And did you ever think you'd be saying, like, I just don't even check and I don't care because things are great at my house? Like, my marriage is
No,
awesome. Well,
uh, there's actually in the archives, I was one of the people to get counseled on a Wednesday, and I was on the fence when I had found out I had gone back stateside for my birthday with our daughter, and I had found out through the doorman of our building that he had her here in
oh,
our apartment, and I was on the fence at that point. I was like, I don't know if it's worth it. Like I had been doing the skills, I had been really working the skills, and then that setback happened. I was like, and it clearly shows in the counseling how on the fence I was and how hurt and devastated I was. But through coaching, I was able to figure out exactly what it was that I wanted. And I wanted my marriage. I wanted to fight for it. I did not want to divorce my husband. I didn't want to leave our two children and one cooking at the time without their father. I didn't want to uproot our entire lives based off this emotional hurt response. I wanted to work through it and I wanted to find that happiness again. And I wanted us to really work at it. And I can't control what he did, but I know what I did. And I just focused on the skills and my spouse fulfilling prophecies and just really worked on myself. The self-care was a huge benefit. Even my daughter, she's 11, she noticed. She was picking up on it. She's like, Mom, you seem so much more happy now. And I'm like, oh, well, maybe I am.
Wow, that's awesome. It must feel really good to have your daughter reflect back to you like, "Oh, mom, you seem happy." Like that
Absolutely.
feels like a like a gold star mom day to have her say that, right? I think so. Okay, so you're saying a lot of really extraordinary things, Oriana. I mean, things that might not make a lot of sense to somebody listening. Like earlier you said, um, I take full responsibility, for my actions when he's the one who cheated. Like he's the one who cheated. You were pregnant at the time. It was with your friend. Like horrible, horrible, horrible. But you're saying I take accountability. Uh, can you say some more about that? Because it sounds a little. I'm not gonna lie. It sounds
Crazy.
like yeah, crazy, crazy.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
impossible, right? That's wrong.
Yeah. No, no. And to be honest, my mom said the same thing.
Yeah,
She is not a Laura Doyle skills woman. She had no idea. So when I would say something like that, she'd be like, "Wait, what? Absolutely not. Don't you dare say that." But to go into it more, yes, my behavior, it's so easy when your boyfriend or your husband or whoever cheats on you, it's so easy to put the blame on them because they're the ones that took that step. They're the ones that went outside the marriage or the relationship. They're the ones that made that conscious choice to do that. Shame on them.
that's right. Yeah,
But what you're not seeing is why. What was going on behind the scenes? What about my part in it all? What about the other person's part? What were they doing for them to want to even entertain that idea? And for me, on my part, which is so hard to see because I'm so fun. No,
yeah.
um, right now I am. No, but what's so hard is that in the bad times they were bad. Just the blatant disrespect that I would say horrible things, sober and drunk. That's the crazy part. More so when I was drunk. But to live with somebody for 11 and a half years who, given it's only maybe once or twice a year, that just berates you to the point where you just question it. Like, do I want to still be with this person? No, I'm not like abusive or anything, but verbally, absolutely I was. And it was just night and day. Like you'd see me and I'd be happy, go lucky, whatever, but it would be like a switch would get flipped. And I would imagine after 11 and a half years of just constantly that happening, that plays a big part. Because I know if the roles were reversed and and it would happen to me, absolutely, it would devastate me. So taking responsibility for my actions, I was responsible for what I did. And I won't say that I pushed him into the arms of her, but in a way, I gave him that opportunity because I wasn't my best self. I Let me try to find the right words for it. I was just awful. And that's the only way I can describe it. And it's so painful to actually go back and just, I have flashes of things I would say or things I would do just to be like, you're not good enough for me. You're a terrible father. You don't do all these things that all these other fathers are doing. You're not active enough. You're not this. You're not this. And it wouldn't just be, one big blub. I would say things under my breath too, like, oh, I wish you did this with our children, or oh, I wish you treated me like this. And I wasn't my best self. And so absolutely, I take responsibility for that. And I know it sounds crazy,
It does. It does.
but that's the truth of it all. Like I contributed my part to it. I wasn't the woman that he deserved to have, and he wasn't the man that I deserved to have. But for my part, I didn't hold up my end of the bargain when we got married.
Wow. So, I mean, it's really something because I hear you say like he broke his vows and so did I. Is in
Absolutely.
a
Yeah.
different way. So it sounds it also sounds exciting in a way. It also sounds exciting. Yeah, and you just smiled because that was yeah, it kind of was exciting to find your part in it. It sounds, I mean, painful, but also this was kind of the key to you deciding that you had the power to fix this. It sounds like.
Yes. It was it was so bad. When I sat down, I would try to write out the apology because when I would go to say it, it wasn't like I my brain just would shut down
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I could not get the words out. And
Yeah.
so I would go to write it down, but then I it was just like a knife in my heart. Just the stuff that I would have to write down as an apology, like the things that it said, my behavior towards him. It was just, it was hard because when you first do it, you're like, why am I doing this?
Yeah. Why
He needs to do this to
He's got to
me.
do it.
He needs to apologize. And to be honest, he didn't apologize until maybe a month ago, 2 months ago. It took that long for him to do it. But that's on his timeline, his agenda. Me, when I was doing it, it was so hard because I was having to come face to face with my actions, with what I had done wrong. And I don't want to remember those
It's
things.
awful.
I don't want to be the
It's
bad guy.
no.
No,
Terrible.
I want happiness and rainbows and fun. I don't
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
and bring back all that grossness that I contributed to, but I did. And even then, he's like, you don't need to apologize. Like, yeah, I don't need to.
You don't need to apologize. That was his response to your
Mhm.
apology.
Yeah.
And would you?
And even I'm like, yes, I do. I do. And he would just sit there and be like, you don't, it's fine. And I would say, no, it's not okay. I need to apologize for this. And for him, he's just he is not an emotional person. So he's just like, okay, whatever. But I know it meant something because it would it would mean something to anybody, whether you have emotions or not. Like if someone wronged you and they apologize, like it matters. Whether they say it or not, it does matter. And he did. And that was a big one. Actually sitting down. And it wasn't like right after I read your book either, right after a group coaching call. It was about a month or two after really practicing the skills because I didn't want to do it at all. I didn't want to sit down and say all the things I had done wrong because I was still hurt. I was still really angry.
Yeah.
And I wanted him to tell me these things. Like, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done this and this and this.
Yes.
But like I said, relinquish that control. If he wanted to do that on his time, that's his business. But for me personally, that's something I had to do if I was to move forward.
It's extraordinary accountability. Incredible. I really appreciate hearing about how hard it was to get there, that you had that experience of your brain kind of shutting off, like, no, we can't be the bad guys here. That's not like a good way to survive. We survive by being the good guy in our story. And but it sounds like apologizing is actually what let you be um a hero in your relationship and in your family.
Oh yeah. And let me tell you though, I am I'm a different person on in the inside. I'm still my goofy normal self, but there are things that, and I know Coach Darlene says it all the time, like she was not a vulnerable person at all. And that was like the last thing for her to get was the vulnerability. And I relate to that. And that's exactly what happened to me. Um, I tear now. I am an emotional tearer. I don't cry, but I will shed tears. And I'll be talking about something with my husband and I'll start tearing. And the look on his face is just like, who are you? What have you done with my wife? Like, this is not her. She doesn't do this. And I am very vulnerable about things and I approach it delicately. Anytime I have like a conversation that's of high importance to me, I approach it delicately with that sense of vulnerability. So that way he knows I'm being serious and I'm not just trying to, manipulate a response or, get a reaction. I genuinely am trying to share something with him that I'm really passionate about or something that it really means a lot to me. And the majority of the time I do tear and I feel like a goober head, but that's just who I am now. I do it.
You feel like a gooberhead, but it sounds like you also feel more authentic. Like the real Oriana is
Yeah,
somebody who cheers. And you love that part of you.
I do actually. It's
Me
anytime we
too.
watch a movie, I like, something happens and I'll tear and I don't try to hide it. I'm just like, oh goodness, here I
Yeah.
am.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I feel like we should have a warning label. Like, if you start hanging out with us, this is going to happen to you. You're going to
That's
get to
such
be,
that's such a good thing because, for so long, at least 8 years of my life, I had never even tapped into that aspect of myself because of how I was raised, how, my husband being in the military, like I had to really check my emotions at the door for anything
had to man
and
up.
be that strong, independent woman that could handle any situation thrown at her. And so I just locked that door to that side of myself and was like, those emotions cannot come out. They have to stay away. I have to be this strong woman. But what I realized myself through the group coaching calls and through the book is that I can still be strong and independent and access those emotions and allow them to come forward and have their day in the sun. To keep those emotions down was my downfall. To keep all of that locked in and inside, it was just a volcano getting ready to explode, to erupt. And so now I let them out. Now I may not let them out like at that point. I have my, especially being postpartum, I have my moments where I just excuse myself to the restroom or to the bedroom and I take like 20 minutes to calm down or I may tear, but I do let those emotions out because that's part of being a woman. That is our makeup, our genetics. Like we have to get those out.
Yeah.
And doing it in front of him may not be the best idea. So that's why I excuse.
I mean, I bet he loves it when you tear up, though. I bet he finds that attractive. I did just now. I found that endearing. So when you were talking about that, so what is your marriage like now?
Now I can sit in the same room with him. He can be on his phone, and that toxic thought troll is locked away. He doesn't
Vanished.
rear his ugly head at me. I don't have anxiety like, oh, what's he doing on his phone? or he could be on his laptop. And I don't have that fear. I don't allow that. And it's just so nice to just watch a movie or to just sit and not be in that constant perpetual state of anxiety or fear. And I can honestly go to him with anything that I have. I say, I need to borrow your brain about something. And he gives me his advice, or I let him talk about his day and I don't add my opinion into it. I just duct tape and just listen, because the more I do that, the more duct tape I use, the more he talks to me. And then we have such good conversations that we wouldn't have before. It would always be my point. What did I think about it? You should do this. Oh, this is happening at work. You should do this. Now I just think, well, what do you think about that? And then he says whatever he thinks about it. And then he asks my opinion on things. And I just say whatever you think. Well, I'm happy either way. It's just good. There's so much evidence of his love, especially after the birth of our daughter. He stepped up. He was my hero. Having a baby overseas is an experience. And he, even in the chaotic nature of the whole birthing process, he was my hero. Things were going wrong, and he stepped up and was like, "This is my wife. You will take care of her." Turned into like the Terminator. And even at the house, he'll be like, "This is a big one." I'll be sitting there, and you can just tell, like, I'll be breastfeeding. You can just tell, like, I'm tired, like I'm just kind of, and he'll be like, "Hey, give her to me. Go take a nap.
Oh,
Go another room. Go take a nap." And old me would have been like, "Oh, is he just saying that so he can message the OW?" But I don't do that. That toxic thought troll comes and he puts that in there, and I'm like, nope, he's doing that because he loves me. I'm going to go take a nap because I deserve great things.
wow. So I really hear that your confidence, your self-esteem is better than it used to be.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I, I think before I was very self-conscious, comparing myself, where we're living in Latin America, there's gorgeous women everywhere. And I was just, down on myself. I was overweight. I was unhappy. And then being pregnant, all the emotions. But now, even, to be fair, I did lose a lot of weight during this whole situation. It's to be expected. But,
yeah.
but now I don't even put myself on the same level.
You're not.
I know,
yeah.
no, not at all. I know what I'm worth. I know that I have a self-fulfilling prophecy for myself. I deserve great things.
Oh.
And great things happen to me. And I would say that all the time throughout the day. And I believe it. And things do happen for me that's amazing. Like this right now, I'm getting to talk to you face to face. This is amazing. Never in a million years when I started the program did I ever think, oh, I'd be looking right at Laura Doyle's face.
Well, and taking a victory lap, like celebrating your incredible accomplishment of fixing a marriage, a family of 5 after like some of the most devastating marriage breaking things have happened. Yeah. Great things happen to you and you deserve great things because yeah, you are great. So how has this affected your kids? You talked a little bit about how you interact with them differently, but what else? How else has it impacted them?
I think the biggest thing is, so my husband and I, we were really cautious about arguments in front of our children in the beginning. And then it got to the point where we would have arguments in front of the kids. And it would always make me feel icky because, I just don't want them to see that side of either of us, like us not at our best.
You want to protect them. Yeah.
Exactly. But since I've really dove into the program and really worked on me and stopped trying to make my husband behave the way I wanted him to. I just started behaving the way I needed to. My daughter, who's 11, has seen that. And she has started using, I hear you. Yeah.
Mhm. She's using the intimacy skills at 11.
She's,
Oh.
she's using them. And she's also, for me, the most important thing is that she sees how I behave with my husband, my loved one, whom I love. Like, I'm not just grumpy all the time or like irritable. I enjoy my time with him. And so she sees that and she sees what real love looks like. And that's such a positive example for her. And it means a lot to me that she is fine. Like, I never got that because I was a child of divorce. So I was raised by a single mom. My daughter is getting to see how she should be like how she should be as a spouse, as a wife, for the future, not always having that last word, listening, treating, I won't say her husband, but she needs to treat her future husband with respect. She's seeing all of that in me. And that is like the biggest win, I think, as far as they're concerned. She's learning, whereas I didn't have that. She's seeing it firsthand and learning.
You must feel so proud that this is a legacy you're passing down. This is how you have an intimate, passionate, peaceful, playful relationship. I'm going to model it for you, and she'll have it forever because that's what she's growing up with every day. What exactly. Better thing to give to your child? That's amazing. Yeah. I love that. That's exciting. What's your tip for somebody who is where you were? Pregnant, he's cheating with your best friend. You're in another country. It's all dark. It's all gloom. You think your marriage is over. He's removed emotionally. And you can't stop drinking, let's say. And she wants what you have now, where you feel like a good mom and a good wife who has a happy marriage and feels so taken care of and can receive your husband's heroism, where he says, give me the baby, you go take a nap. She wants what you have. What is your tip for her? What should she do? How should she start?
The biggest thing is, what do you want? And I remember in one of my coachings, that was the question. What do you want? Do you want this? And yes, you make that decision. If you do want the marriage, you do want your husband, you fight for it with every ounce of your being. You have to change your mindset. You find those spouse-fulfilling prophecies, those self-fulfilling prophecies. You kick that toxic troll out of your mind. You lock him away in the dungeon, but you have to put in the work. He's not going to do it. That's not on him. You have to do the work for yourself. And at the end of the day, if it doesn't work out, and that's terrible, but you will be so much better in the end. You have changed yourself for the better. And it was bad. It was so dark and I couldn't see around it. I couldn't see through it. It was terrible. But I fell back on my faith. I fell back on the intimacy skills. And that's all I had to go off of. I didn't have anything else. I didn't have friends. I didn't have anybody here physically to help me through it. And going through with the group coaching calls, private coaching at times, I felt like I finally had that community of support that I needed to really drive the ball home. I don't know that saying, but to really, I don't know what
make a touchdown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To really end the game. Like, I was in the end game.
Yeah. Have the transformation you wanted to have.
Exactly. Because it's so difficult. If you're surrounded by friends, great. That's fantastic. Family, that's fantastic. But the majority of the time, they don't practice the intimacy skills and they aren't going to give you that support that you need, because in the back of their mind, it's going to be the same thing. Like, oh, she's crazy. Why is she the one issuing an apology? why is she the one doing this when he's the one that cheated? You can't have that. You got to have that support system of the women that are going to be like, we got you. We see you. We stand with you. You can do this. It's not impossible. Get your mind right. Don't focus on the negative aspect. Anytime that comes around, focus on the positive. And you can do this. And I'm not saying it's everything's going to be, sunshine and rainbows at the end of the journey. But I can say that you're going to be a better person at the end of it, whether or not it works out. But you will be better, because I know for a fact I can speak for myself, and I am better. And I didn't even know if our marriage was going to last or to work out. But what I did know is that if it didn't, I still need these skills for myself to be a better person, to be a better mother. When I do go back to work, to be a better employee or boss or whatever, to be a better friend, daughter. Like it's not for nothing. Like, these aren't just like, oh, I'm going to learn some skills today and we'll see how they do this week, and then never use them again. Like, you use them all the time and you don't even realize it at the point. Like, when you really get into it, you really don't even realize you're still using them. And in every aspect of your life. But specifically for marriage, it makes all the difference.
The skills just come out of you now. They just are in your cells. They're just part of you. You got
skills. I got skills.
And now you're a stand for, like, women come into the group and you're a stand for them, because you're like, oh, it's possible. Because let me tell you what I did. So it's exciting. What do you think you would say to Orianna if you could go back in time and tell her what you know now?
I wouldn't say anything to her. I would just hand her a roll of duct tape and be like,
put this on.
Be quiet. That's my biggest one. Like I said, my mouth always got me in trouble, and that would be the biggest thing. But if I could go back, I would just love myself. I'd give me a big hug and be like, you're not perfect. You're not, but you know what? We can get you there. We're going to work on you, sister.
It's going to be okay.
It'll be all right.
Big hug, like a lot of compassion and empathy, because she was hurting back then.
It was bad. Yeah.
Well, it's an incredibly inspiring story you have, Orianna. And I, of course, want to congratulate you and give you my Best Wife Award, which you richly deserve. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, for fixing your family, saving it, for being so incredibly accountable, for being a role model, a beacon of hope for what's possible for other women, and for being that role model for your children, all three of them. Especially your daughter, like we talked about, for leaving a legacy of what a happy marriage looks like. Out of the ashes, you created something beautiful, and so moved and inspired to get to hear it.
Yay! Thank you so much. Oh, yay!
You're welcome. Yeah,
fantastic.
Great job. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story so vulnerably and authentically, and going back to visit the bad old days for our benefit. It's you did a lot to end world divorce today.
I was not really nervous talking to you, but the one thing that was nervous that I was really not looking forward to was the bad old days. But I just kept telling myself, hey, if my story can help somebody out there that's in pain right now, to just have that extra little push to get them to go, like, you can do this, then it's worth it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it definitely did. So.
Hey. Hey.
Thank you. If you enjoyed hearing the real life story of how Orianna made her struggling marriage playful and passionate again, subscribe to the Empowered Wife podcast. On next week's podcast, I'm going to reveal how to magnetize your man with financial intimacy. In the meantime, I hope you're having lots of fun. Today's fun fact is that our local bakery sent us a coupon for a free cup of coffee with a pastry and another coupon for a free pastry with a cup of coffee. And John was like, how can we work this out?
For more on how to make your marriage playful and passionate without his conscious effort, even if it seems hopeless right now, check this out.